exactly. Thank you, Kirsten. All right. So I'm actually connected up to one of my clients' servers. This is a live server, although they're not live on 10 yet. They're actually migrating from 8.03 to version 10, and they're kind of paused in that process right now. And I asked them for permission to use their server, and of course they agreed to do that. So you may see Elk River Machine is the name of the company. You may see that in the company name. So just to give you a little background on what we're looking at. So I pretty much have everything installed on one server here. We're running the SQL server, the app server, and my IIS. It's all really on one server here. Obviously, your environments are probably going to be more mixed than that. So, all right. So let's go into our Epicor. There we go. And I'd say wow, that's really slow. Go to shipping, receiving, go to general ops, and let's go to custom shipments. And let's pull up a pack ID. I created a pack ID just for this event. And this pack has 4 lines. And what I did was, and I kind of went ahead and did this, but for the invoice comments, I added an invoice comment to line 1 and an invoice comment to line 2, but lines 3 and 4, there's no comments. All right, so if you're in the system here and you're on a field like this and you say, oh, okay, well I've got an invoice comment. How do I get that to come out on the Packslip? Well, the first thing you need to do is identify where does this thing point to? What database, table, and field name does this go to? And Epicor has given us a cool little tool called Field Help, which in the earlier version 8, this was much more difficult. You actually had to go into developer mode and customizations, so go into Field Help, and then usually what I'll do is go into the technical details, and we'll open the window a little bit here, and you can see, hopefully you guys can read that it's, oops, I didn't get the whole thing there. It's shipdtl.invoice comment. That's the name of the field. And you can use this tool for any other field too. If we click here on the log, you can see it's shiphead.shiplog. So it's a great tool. And but what we're interested in is this invoice detail, ship detail, invoice comment. So that's the field we need to add. So the next step, if I was doing this on a customer site, the next thing I would do is go into the data definition to see if that field is actually there. Is it available? I'm going to skip that step because it kind of means bouncing around a little bit. I can tell you right now, it's not available in the standard output. So we're gonna go right down into under system management, and then under reporting, we're just gonna go into the report style, and then we'll pull up the pack. So now I've had some people say, well, how do you know it's pack? You know, some of these things you have to just guess at. Like, for instance, if you're doing sales order acknowledgement, that's called order AC. You'd think it would be under S for sales order, but it's not. It's under O for order AC. So, and like this thing, this is a customer shipment. So you'd think it'd be under C for customer or S for shipment. No, it's under P for Packslip. So some of this is just experience. You play around a little bit, you'll find where the stuff is. So.
Sure, I use this all. Go to the search, do search all, and copy that to Excel. Because then you get the description and you get the whole thing, and then you can just.
Yeah. Yeah?
If you have a
Good.
rough idea, and you do start to learn these over time, right? But if you have a rough idea, do the search, bring them all back in the list, and then sort by the description, not the ID. You'll be able to
Yeah.
find it using plain English a little bit better too.
There you go. There you go. Good suggestions. All right, so let's, we're going to add a new report style here. We're going to pick the style tab, and let's call this packing slip MNEUG, if I can learn how to type. And the report type, we're going to set that as SQL Server. The data definition, we're going to leave that for now. And the report location, I'm just going to be lazy and put in junk. And then for the output location, I'm going to say I want this to go to a database. All right, we're going to save that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to one of my previously configured items, do a Control A and a Control C, and then we're just going to paste that in here. And so I have a folder set up called Custom Reports for this particular client, and in that I've already done one of their Packslips, so we're going to do a different one. We're just going to call this MNEUG. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. So the next step is to go into the data definition, and if you click on the data definition field and then right click and say open with, I find this is a great shortcut rather than trying to go in. You can go straight into the data definition and then find what you're after, but you've got that kind of great little shortcut that Epicor has given you. I'd say use it. Okay, so once this thing comes up, this is the standard Epicor data definition, and of course we can't change this, right? We can view it, but we can't make any fields available. So what we need to do is go into Actions and then duplicate this report. And I'm going to call this Packslip MNEUG. And we'll do the same thing for the description. Okay. Say OK. All right. So now that we've copied that over, we will have a data definition that we can modify. We can add, hide, do all kinds of stuff. All right, so let's open up the tables. So you can see on this one, in the Packslip, there are actually 25 tables associated with this data definition, which is that's a good amount. I think that's probably one of the bigger ones. AR form might be close to that big. There's a bunch of tables here, but from what we looked up earlier, we know this is in the ship detail table. So let's highlight the ship detail table. And then it takes a little time for this to update normally, not just this slow connection. Once you click on ship detail, sometimes this screen comes up for me in the detail tab, but most times it comes up in the exclusion tab. Exclusion is what we want. And if we scroll down this list of fields, you'll see here's our invoice comment. And we want to turn that off. And then go ahead and save it. I would, as a general rule, not include the label. The only time I would say that this is relevant is if you're doing multi-company, multi-language, right? Where you've got you have to support multiple languages. But it will actually cause you problems in some forms like the AR form. That one's full up. Microsoft has a limitation of the number of fields in a table, and that's 1024. And the AR form is essentially at that. So if you add a table to the AR form data definition, you need to exclude all of the labels. Otherwise, you'll get an error message, and it just won't run. So there's that kind of a little heads up for you. So I would say, and like I said, unless you're doing the multi-language thing, don't include the labels, right? And you can always come back and add them later.
Sounds like there might be a day of 4 hours worth of heartache over that discovery of 1024.
It's it's really a pain. I just went through it because I had to add 2 tables, and if you're lucky, the table that you're adding will have a short list. But of course, the one I was adding did not, and it was
And then excluding fields, it's a lot of work.
it's very time consuming. I mean, it's not hard to do. It's very time consuming because you click on it, you have to save and wait, and then you click on it and save and wait. And if you've got 100 fields, you're gonna yeah.
Paste insert, paste update, does one.
Um, I have not tried that.
I mean, if
It's
it
a
takes
good-
a long time, I might go to lunch, well, it's.
Right. Oh, it's a good suggestion. That would be
Grab them from out of the data dictionary then?
Well, if you're excluding them here,
Yeah.
right.
you just
Copy.
Yeah.
make your changes
Yeah.
and do a paste.
Well, like if you bring it in the table though, there's nothing to exclude. So how do you, and you don't want the whole works, you want 2 fields out of that new
Yeah.
table.
Yeah, that's right. And very good point. If you add a table, there's nothing excluded, so you need to add them as exclusions first, right? So that they'll show
I
up.
think you can pull them out of the data dictionary. I like your thought there.
Yeah.
You went to the
Yeah.
data dictionary, grab the list.
Yeah.
You could paste them in.
That's a great suggestion. I have not tried that, but
Is the 1024 per table?
I believe that's a table limitation. Yep, it's a Microsoft.
Of the table in the report, or of the table you're bringing?
The table in the database.
Table in the
It's a database limitation. It's not report based. Yeah. So, all right. So we've unexcluded our invoice comment. Oh,
Well, this makes some sort of, this makes some sort of a temporary table, right? The reports generate a temporary table. of some sort.
it goes to a database. Right.
Yeah, but with the labels, what happens is in the RDB, it builds a table, right? Effectively a list in the RDB of the label and the value. With multi-language, it's much more important. I think that, if you did need them and you were adding more things, you should be able to go through one of the things that I do suggest to customers, whether it's Crystal Reports or SSRS, is to clean up that data definition once you understand your business and what you actually use on the reports, because there's tons of information generating into that XML file that the data definition creates that you're not using. So if you have tables, like if you're not a field service company, your AR invoice is generating 25% more data and pulling 25% more tables than it needs to, because it hits 10 different field service tables, okay, for no data. So if you simplify the data definition by removing those tables, your printing gets faster. Who here hates how long it takes their invoice to print? Right? I'll tell you, my record right now is a 400% increase in time. 28 seconds down to 7. Okay?
Wow.
So by simplifying the data definition, getting rid of the tables that you don't use and removing them from the report, you can make performance increase as well. Right? And that would be the thing that I would say is if you need to add tables, figure out what you can remove, and then you're under that 1024 limit. If you need 1,000 labels in a report, you may need 2 reports. I'm just going to be honest with you, but as businesses grow and the need for multi-language, right? I'm just thinking of Canada, right? If you have business in Canada and they need their documentation in French, right? For whatever reason, you're dealing with a government entity in Canada, they require it in English and French, even though they're in Edmonton, Alberta. Nobody speaks French up there. It has to be in both languages due to compliance. That can be done using those labels. So you want to make sure you don't just exclude them unilaterally, but there is a time and a place for it.
Yep. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna save this data definition, and let me head back to my report style. Let's hit refresh, and then in the data definition field, find our MNEUG, and we'll save that. Okay, so the plumbing's basically in place, although we actually haven't done this piece of it, right? If we try to run this report right now, it'll fail because we don't have that part of it. So we need the report manager. And the report manager you can get through, I actually have a shortcut for it, but if you go over to the Microsoft area, which window am I looking at now? Here, I think it's this guy. Here we go. All right. And if you go down to the, call up the reporting services configuration manager, go to the report manager URL. That's the URL that's going to take us to the IIS interface for SSRS. And we'll give this a minute to update. I can minimize that.
You can save that report link as a favorite.
Yes, I did. I didn't want to run it from my favorite because I wanted to show people how to get it, right, where it comes from. But yeah, you can see I have it right here. So, yeah. Okay, so this particular customer has their stuff under a folder called Custom Reports. And let me go to Details View here. And, oh, I forgot to delete that. Let's delete that. Okay, pretend I didn't do that. So if there's no folder there, we want to just create a new folder, and we're going to call this Packslip MNEUG. All right, so there's our folder, but it's empty. So what we need to do is go back to the standard reports folder, which is where all the standard Epicor files are, and then go down the list to Packslip. Here's the Packslip, and you can see there's 3 files here. There's a main file, and there's two subreports. Now, Microsoft gives us the ability to move these files, but you can't really copy them. I'm not quite sure why they don't have that feature, but you can't copy. You can move or you can download. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download these. I found this to be the quickest and the easiest. So you just do a save as. I'm going to put it in my downloads folder. Let's create a new folder. We'll call it Packslip MNEUG. And we'll just save that. We'll do the same for the Packslip.
Instead of download, can you just open with the...
What's that?
Instead of download, can you just open that with the report builder and save as from that to the folder?
Yes, I think you can. Yes. Yep, you can do that. So I kind of like doing it this way because then I kind of get I get to save a backup of the file. You know what I mean? But because we have to come back here anyways to do the text editor. But all right, so let me finish that, and then we'll go Packslip.
So you're just dropping that when you download it, you're dealing with it as a file, an RDL file, and dropping it in wherever your favorite spot is.
That's right. Yep, just stick it in a temp folder. Yep.
Are these sub-reports? The 3 files because there's sub-reports in them?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, and you need to bring all 3 over. There was one customer that I talked to that he just did the one file, moved it into a different folder, and it was like AR where there's I don't know, there's like 10 sub-reports, and when he went to run his invoice, it took like 30 minutes or 45 minutes for it to actually preview. And that's because he left all of his sub-reports over in another folder. So you got to do them all. Whatever sub-reports are there, bring them all over.
So then it works with the local folder first, I believe, right?
Right.
And it finds them there. It's happy. Otherwise, it's got to search the whole reports there.
It probably uses the path statement, right? Whatever your path environment variable is. I'm assuming. I don't know, but
You
basically
need to put them in the same folder.
do them all. Yep, that's right. All right, so let's go back to custom reports. Let's go into our Packslip MNEUG, and then we're going to upload these guys. And again, we'll just.
Why did you just cut out the middleman and just send it straight over there? Instead of putting it in the download folder, why didn't you just pick the other location?
Well, but first of all, because the only option that you get from this interface is move. Now you can do as Jer said, and you can pull it up in Report Builder and then do a save as, but it's still a manual process. You still have to pull up all three and do a save as and move them over. But
But you have to do an upload? Or why didn't you just pick this location and just do a save as into this location instead? You have to do that upload.
It's not a location.
yeah, because it looks like a file here, but it's not really a file. It's just it's a representation. That when you upload that RDL, it has to register with IAS, and it does some background stuff. So it's not pure file management here, right? So
Yeah, you'll never find that file on the server.
You can theoretically select all files, it's on the wall, one report server.
not that I know of. No. If to do the
Like you download only reports, some reports as well. You'd be able to select all the checkboxes.
no, that's not supported. Now, if you're running Visual Studio and you do this as a project, then you're in more of a classic programming source code and compile code. And when you publish your project, then all the files will update that need to be updated. I'm using just the Report Builder, which is their quickie free tool, and so we don't have that feature is not built into Report Builder. So there's a way to do it, but not the way I'm doing it. All right, so let's upload next one on the list, which is the Packslip. I always turn on the overwrite just out of habit. And let's grab the third one, the Mark IV. All right, so in our folder, we've got our three, I'll call them the base templates, Epicor templates. And we should be able to test this out now. Let's try and do a preview. Go back to our customer shipment. Go to Actions, Print, and this particular client, I need to set this, otherwise I'm going to lose that. All right. Now, the first time we preview this, it takes the longest amount of time because it has to pull Adobe into RAM. But the second time we do it, Adobe's there and it'll print. All right. So here's our folder, which means we got the plumbing correct. So the next thing I'm going to do is go into the system monitor, and then we're going to grab that GUI ID. And here's our, let me shift over here a little bit. So it's way over on the right. And what I found, actually one customer showed me this, if you just go to the field before it and then tab to it, it kind of self-highlights. And then you can copy that whole thing. And if you want to, you can kind of drag this out and then try to shift over and grab it. It's not worth the time. Just do the, and then I have Notepad here, and then what I do is I just paste it into Notepad. And we're going to need this in a little bit, so we're just going to copy that, the GUI ID.
In the regular session, you'll probably be using that GUI ID about 10 times.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Well, the GUI ID associates that unique running of that report with that user and the time and the, you know what I mean? It's
not the report.
Nope.
Unique run and user everywhere.
Yep.
The equivalent to the file name of the XML file that you would generate in.
Yep,
in
exactly.
Crystal report.
That is correct. That's absolutely right.
You can actually go into the SQL Server to that
We're-
report database.
We will. We will.
We look at it, okay.
Yep.
Almost really kind of big report.
All right, so we have our GUI ID, and let's now go back into, well, let's go to just what Bob was talking about. So I'm going to go into the SQL Server Manager, and then we're going to open up the databases. And on this particular one, there's the SSRS database is ERP10 reports, and if I open up the tables, you'll see that you've got a table name, an underscore, and then a bunch of GUI IDs. So usually what I'll do is I'll go into the filter here, and then for the value, just paste in our GUI ID. And these are all the tables that are associated with that particular instance, the running of that report. So the ship detail was the table of the field that we unexcluded, right? So if you right click on that and go, I just say pick top 1000. There's only 4 rows here. You'll see that down here we've got our 4 lines and our. That's not very friendly, is it? So if I scooch over, there's our field, invoice comment, and then there's the lines. So this is kind of the equivalent of, in the Crystal world, of going to the XML file and opening that up, right? This is the raw data. This is what reports we're going to be working on. And I find it very helpful here, especially if you're adding tables to make sure the joins are correct. And this is a good intermediate spot. And actually, from this point on, Epicor is kind of out of the picture, right? From this point on, it's kind of all SSRS. It's all Microsoft from this point on. So Microsoft did its job. It put the data into our database, and now we're going to use SSRS to get that data. So, all right. So let's go back to. Oops. Wanted to minimize this. We got windows within windows here. Oops, that doesn't look right, does it? Oh, yeah, that window is. There we go. Get him out of the way. Going a little bit slow here. There we go. All right, so I'm in the right folder. It's the Packslip, and I'm gonna do one thing here, and we're gonna pull this up in Report Builder. You just right click and then go down to Edit and Report Builder. All right. And so this is our form, that's the standard Packslip form. And if we want to preview it, you can just hit the run button over there and paste in the GUI ID. And there, gotta get that guy. All right, so that went out and got our data. Bring that back over. Wow. Really slow. All right, so let's go back to the design mode. And I want to show you a little trick that actually, I think one of the guys at the Insight showed me this. If you just take a field, wow, really slow. Just move it back, and then save it. And I'll show you why we did that in just a minute. So we're going to leave Report Builder. We're going to take this Packslip and we're going to re-download it. To our same folder, but let me change this to original, and we'll save this as Packslip. Okay, so the next step is to pull up that RDL file in a text editor, and you can use Notepad++, XML Editor, use whatever your favorite editor is. I'm going to use Notepad, and let's go on the MNEUG. So here's the deal: if you pull up the original Packslip, what you get is something that only Neo from the matrix can read. This is really it's XML, and I'm not sure why, but I think it's the older or earlier versions of SSRS reports were done in a system or a version. It's different. I don't know exactly why, but that's why I go into the report, make one change, save it, and then re-download it. And the standard Packslip, if we pull that up in Notepad, you can see it formats much cleaner. It's a little easier to read. So
We're making it faster. Move all the white spaces.
well, maybe that's it. I don't know the exact reason why it's like that. And not all of them are like that. Some are like that. The AR form is that way. Packslip is that way. I've had customer statements are not. Purchase orders are not. I'm not.
Notepad++ that will take care of the problem.
Really?
Try that.
Okay. Okay.
I noticed in the date that, like the second line there, it says it's the schema is 2010 there. Is
Yeah.
that different between that and the original?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, the original's 08.
I don't know.
Original's 08, so I think that's it.
No, it really is what he said. It's just not the line breaks in stuff. So
Yeah.
if you use Notepad++, you can use a feature called XML Preframe, and it'll page break it all, or line break and do everything.
Yeah. And I'm even though I like using Notepad, I come into people's places and I'm always reluctant to install open source software on their servers, because then when things happen, they go, oh, it's that piece of software that Dave installed. You know what I mean? So I try to work with the tools that are there, and this is what I've established to work with these files. So, but yeah, for yourselves, Notepad++, absolutely, knock yourself out. Or XML Editor, yeah. So the way this is structured, and I forgot one piece of this. Let me minimize that. Let me go into the Packslip report builder. So the one piece of information I forgot to show you is when we were in report builder is to identify the dataset name. So you can see that there's three datasets associated with this form: shiphead detail, shiphead ship detail, company, and report parameters. So and I guess the easiest way to find out what is associated is go down to the detail section, and if you click down here, you'll see the three dashes there, the three little hyphens. That means that's a detail section. So if you right click and you say select tablix, it's a table. And where's my scroll bar here. Here we go. Here's the data set name, ship head, ship detail, right? So this form is based on that data set. So as the main data set, there are other data sets, but those, they can only be referenced as aggregates, right? The SSRS uses one main data set. And in this case, it's ship head, ship detail. Okay. So let's go back to our RDL file. Oops. So here's our data set name, ship head, ship detail. And within this structure, there's a big select statement. And it all starts with select, and then it's got, structure-wise, it's got an alias, a period, and then a field name, and then a comma, and it lists them all. And then at the very end, it says it lists the tables and the joins. So as part of this definition, you can see here it says from ship head plus parameters, table GUI ID, plus, and then there's a T1. So this T1 is called an alias in transactional SQL, I guess. It's called an alias, and so don't let that throw you. But you can see here where it's going to be almost impossible to use the standard query builder that Microsoft gives you for SSRS because the table name changes every single time, right? So, that's one reason why you can't use the standard query tool. You could still use it to do your development and then come into the RDL and replace the references with the table GUI ID. You could still do that, but basically you can't use that tool. Oh yeah, that was the other thing I was going to show you. If we right click on the data set itself and go to Dataset Properties, and then go into the formula editor, you can see here that whole query is put here too. But again, it's so unfriendly. It's so awkward. I found it much easier just to download the files and work on them in Notepad, because at least it formats it a little bit. It's very difficult to see what's going on here. So and by exporting them, you've kind of got a little backup, which, believe me, you may need. There's times if you make a formula change and SSRS blows up on you, and you undo that change, it'll still blow up on you, and you just need to bail out of the session and start back up again. So I find myself making frequent backups. So all right, so let's go back to our text. All right, so what I like to do is identify the data set that we want to tie to, and which in our case was it's the ship detail. That's the table that we were at, and that has an alias of T2. So what I like to do, and I don't think it really matters, I think you can add it to the end of the list, it doesn't matter, but I like to kind of keep things grouped. You can see they're kind of structured that way. See all the T1s, and then it goes to the T2s, and then it does the T3s. So I'll find the last T2 in a sequence, which is like right here, and we will put in T2 dot, oops, case is sensitive, invoice comment. I learn how to type, and finish up with a comma. Again, it's very picky, very particular. So that's going to add the field to the query itself. But now we need to add the field to the data set. And to do that, I happen to know that this field is a string, and hopefully you'll be able to figure that out. Here's where it specifies the type. And this field that we're adding is a string, but there are other types here. And if you look in the list, you'll see there's integers and there's decimals, and so like I said, I'm kind of lazy, so I'm just going to grab this whole field definition. Is that rain? Wow. I better hurry up, huh? Before the power goes out. So then we go down to the bottom of the list here. Oop, a little too far. And
on the scale of user-friendly, 1 to 10.
But this is.
Step forward.
Yeah, exactly. Make a
Can you
space.
define field type structure? I'm not an SSRS expert, but wouldn't that be in field help tell you what it is? I mean, do they change between?
Yeah, it's in there.
Field type field?
Yeah.
Where you're
Yeah.
looking up that it was a string and you wanted to know that, wouldn't that be part of the application? To tell you what the data type field is?
If you go to field help, I think it
Okay.
tells you.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure,
Yeah.
but there's other ways to find it.
Probably
Yep.
in the data dictionary, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be in the data dictionary.
Yep.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if it was changing, and that's why you guys had to look at it.
Yeah. Nope. All right, so I'm going to change the actual field name to invoice comment, and now the data field reference, which is invoice comment. And these have to be mutually exclusive, by the way. So if there's another invoice comment on the report already, we would have to change that in the query. We would have to use the as statement. I would say t2.invoice comment as ship detail underscore invoice comment, right? And then from that point on, I would reference that field as ship detail underscore invoice comment. So I happen to know that there's no conflict here, so, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that you need to be aware you can't duplicate names. So, all right, so let's go ahead so we've added the field to our query. We've added it to the field to our data set, and I saved it. So let's get out of here. I have to close this down for now. All right, and we're going to upload our file, the RDL file. Here's our Packslip. Again, we'll say overwrite. Okay, again, hit the down arrow, say edit and report builder.
You don't bother to change the name of the report like we would have in Crystal.
No,
Just keep the same
no.
report name as long as it's
Yeah.
a different folder.
I would. I had one customer that wanted me to change the names, but it's really not necessary because you're creating a separate folder for all of those files. So they already exist in their own space. You know what I mean? And, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know for sure that it's the same one. It's the same one.
Multiple versions of a report, right? So it's like,
Yep.
Every name's a little different.
Yep. All right, so we're in the report builder. Open up the ship detail data set, and there's our invoice comment. So we're looking good there. It's showing up. So now we need to use it. So, and this is, you know what? As long as I'm here, I probably don't have that anymore. Let's go grab that. And okay. Yeah, sorry. I lost my train of thought there. Okay. So the one thing that SSRS doesn't let you do, and I find it very awkward, is how do I find out where this is? Where we're looking at, part number, the part number in the description. You go, okay, well, let's go back to the design. How do I find that? It's actually kind of difficult to do in SSRS, and some of it is just kind of poking around, start looking at stuff. And over here, it'll show you the field names. If I can move that over a little bit.
In Crystal, you could just click on field and then go over.
That's right. Yep, SSRS, it doesn't really show you that. Now here I can see PO line. Here's part description, and if we drill into the expression, we can see there's all kinds of logic here. But basically, we're looking at the part number and the part line. So it's a good bet. We want to add our comment right below this. So one thing I found in SSRS is even though there's a function here, if you highlight by the way, this is this grid you see on the left is actually, it's a table, right? And like I said, the three dashes means that's a detail row. These other ones are group rows. So, so if you highlight the row for this table and it says insert row below, it doesn't work. I haven't been able to get that to work. So the little trick that I'll do is I'll just go one below it and say insert row above. So SSRS by default wants to assign a single field to the entire row. And see this little icon here? It's going to list all of our fields. And I could put our invoice comment all on this one row. So, but it's kind of awkward and it doesn't really give you much. You don't get to shift things over and indent them. You're limited on the flexibility. So the way to get around that is to put a rectangle on top of that. Rectangle becomes a construct that you can put other things on top of and then shift them around. So I'm going to highlight that. It's actually a cell, right? Since I'm in a table here, I should show you. Here. There's really just one column and then a bunch of rows. Now, Packslip's a little bit of an exception. You can see over here, I'm not sure why whoever developed this left these columns way over on the left. Most of them have the columns deleted, and you can always get them back. But this particular one, they're just all squished into like a 0 or something. I'm not quite sure why they did that. But in general, your report is a table with one column, multiple rows, and groupings. So that's the 10,000 foot view. All right, so I have this row highlighted, and I want to insert a rectangle. And there's really not much that happens here. All you can really do is go off it, click back on it, and if it says there's a rectangle, you're good to go.
So it fills it to the full size?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And you can nest rectangles. You know what I mean? And play with the border properties, that kind of thing. So yeah, you can not only can you nest tables, you can nest rectangles. So all right, so we have a rectangle sitting in our cell. Let's bring in our invoice comment onto this. And I'm going to spread that out. Okay, since this is a group level, it's going to put it in as an aggregate. And we don't want this to be an aggregate. We want this to be specific, record specific. So we take out the first. And then the other thing I like to do, just kind of out of habit, is change the padding. Change the padding to 0. It's going to give you much tighter code. You know, when you're trying to line things up, you'll see that it's spaced out, and you think, oh, I don't have any spaces, but you forget about this padding setting. So set it to 0. You'll have nice tight code. All right, so let's save it, and let's take it for a test drive. There's our GUI ID. That's not uncommon. You have to refresh the queue. Okay, I don't have scroll bar here, but
What is the refresh before you name?
I think that SSRS sees that the file name changed, and so when I try to run it, it has to update. It has to refresh. So yeah. So here's the comments, that the 2 comment lines and the 2 that are not. But I would say, oh yeah, Dave, but I got space here. I don't want to use that space, right? If it's not needed. So let's go back and let's address that. If we select this row and then go into row visibility, we can say, you know what? Let's base this on an equation. So I'm going to use the immediate if. I like using the length statement, but you know, there's other ways of checking for nulls and empty strings. I like using the length. Go down into the fields. Let's go down to the invoice comment. So I'm going to say if the length of that field is, let's say, we'll say equals. If it equals 0, then we want to have a true, otherwise false. And then we'll end our end bracket. So this is a hidden property, so if the comment value has a 0, we want it to be hidden. Say OK, say OK. Let's save it. Let's run it. Come on. Here we go. And let's view it. And there we go. So you can see that for the two that have comments, it's there, but for the ones that don't, the our part has moved up, right? So we're not consuming space that doesn't need to be consumed. So it's just that simple. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
Maybe you're working on a report designer right there. But I mean, first of all, a lot of times I use the zoom functions. I go to control and mouse wheel.
Yes?
But whenever I'm in access report, you can't do that. So you're stuck to this little tiny one. So how is it access on that?
Well, down here, there's the zoom is right, and I use this all the time for fine placement. You just hit the plus.
Control scroll.
Yep. 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 So.
Access, it's terrible.
Sure. Sure. Yes, sir.
So do you use multiple folders then? Say you have 10 Packslips you need to use.
Yep.
So you use multiple folders and just make it appropriate?
I haven't. It's not worth the effort. You know what I mean? It's so much easier just to point to a different, because the subreports a lot of times are common, right? So you could do that, right? But some of them are kind of a nightmare, like the AR form, which has like, I don't know, it's like 10 subreports. But you can change the name.
So you keep all those 3 report names the same, but use a different folder, say for customers. Say if you're putting, you want their logo on each of these reports, and you want, before you used to go in and just say, okay, printing this Packslip, and you have a list. How do you do that list still?
You can still do that. It's exactly the same way. If we go into the report style, and let me pick the pack. Come down to here. So I would just change this name, right? You call it EUG2, right? You created another report style, change the name to EUG2, and that's the file that's going to get pulled up. But it can exist in our custom folder directory. It doesn't have to have a whole structure of its own. You know what I mean? So you would create a new report style, change just that one file name, and you got a new report style. Not only that, but the subreports are common. So if you update, let's say you had a logo on one of the subreports, then those would be tied. They both use the same subreports. So if you had subreports that needed to be different, then you're right. I would create a whole new folder, right? I'm sorry. I pointed to the wrong folder, didn't I? This is the file you would change. You would call that Packslip 2. Sorry about that. I was on the folder. But yeah, you can have, and I'll do that sometimes when I'm trying to debug something. You know what I mean? I'll just call it Packslip 2 over here in Report Builder. I'll do a save as, call it Packslip 2, because I don't want the current users to be affected, or maybe I'm just trying something. I just want to, and I've done this. One good example is the AR form that has a subreport that you can't find. It has a height of 0. You have to end up having to go into the RDL, manually put in a height there, and then when you bring it back into SSRS, then it'll show up, and then you can manipulate it and look at it. But yeah, the AR form is that's a tricky one. Probably one of the bigger ones too.
That's the only place to change your sub-report heights.
Well, no. The standard sub-report, like here, here's a sub-report right here, right? I can change this height as much as I want, but the one in the AR form has a height of 0, so you can't even click on it. Yeah, I haven't even been able to. Well, I can't even get to the row, right? Like this thing sits in a row. This row is set to 0. So
one time doing it in Visual Studio could be an advantage.
Yes.
Because then you could hit the code.
That's
you
right.
See the code. I never use
Yep.
Visual Studio. I always use the
no, you're right.
builder, but
You're right. Yep. So
So my next question was, I follow what you're doing by editing the RSS.
the RDL, you mean?
RDL file using the editor, and you're editing the SQL and the data. Isn't there any way that the original system designer allows you to get to that? But you just can't edit it?
You can. It's just really awkward. I
What does it
can't.
look like, and where would you go to do that?
Well, it's right up in here. If you go into Dataset Properties, and then go into the expression, this is what they give you. So, like I said, I find it very awkward, very hard to read.
But you could copy that and paste it into your favorite
Yes, sir.
XML editor.
Yes, sir.
And then paste it back.
Yes, sir. Absolutely right. Yep, absolutely right.
This isn't XML.
Well,
You
that
could,
is-
but you could bring it into something called format SQL code.
Right.
Format
Yeah,
SQL.
It's- yeah, it's SQL,
I use
and
my own editor.
yep. No, you're absolutely right.
It seems
You
like
know.
it's an extra step to save this and then edit full-time file, edit it.
Yep.
You just copy and paste it.
Yep.
Well, and it truly is so simple, it's dynamic SQL,
Yeah.
Right. Right.
so there's no syntax check.
That's right. There is no syntax checking. That's exactly right. So, and like I said, I've had situations where I'll make a change to a formula, and you go to save and it blows up, and you go, okay, I'll undo that change, and you go to save and it still blows up, and your only option is to bail out, come back in. So I've found that having those, and I do regular backups. I try to make a little mental note, say okay, about every 20 minutes I'll download it into I'll call it a whip folder, just so I kind of have a progression of what got saved. So, but yeah. So hopefully, I guess any other questions?
I have a question about just editing the sub-report and.
You had a question earlier. We're done with you. Damn it. That usually works. It's not going to work, is it? Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry.
So you basically open up the sub-report in another session, right?
Thank you. Yes. That's exactly right.
So you're looking at it in another session, which is a little more disjointed than
Yep.
Critical was.
Yep. If I'm working on a report and I want to look at the Mark IV sub-report, just go into Edit and Report Builder. Again, you'll have 2 instances of Report Builder running. And so unlike Crystal, where you could double-click on a sub-report and drill into it, you can't do that with Report Builder. Doesn't work.
And then
So
you might want to come in about previewing the sub-report, and you need to know whatever parameters.
well,
you know all the
I found it's not worth trying to even set it up, right? Because the sub-reports don't have the parameters visible that I know of, right? Here's the parameters. Yeah, see, it's hidden. So
You
the
could preview it by setting up the visible here in value.
yes, yeah, that's exactly right. Which I'm like, why do that? And you got to remember to undo it, and there's a chance for error, and
So
you know,
make your change, save it,
Yep.
and open it in the master report.
Yes, sir.
report and see what it looks like.
yes, sir, that's correct.
So you keep that window open, you're saving that one.
Yep.
You open the other one.
Yep. It's a little bit of it's going back and forth, but that's
You just have to go one GUI ID in.
Right, that's right. Put the one GUI ID and then it filters down to the subreports. So, but yeah, great question. So, I'm a little out of time, but the other tip I'd like to throw at you guys that I came across recently is page numbering. If you go to the standard AR form, did I lose my? Oh, I thought I had. Oh, yeah, Packslip. Okay. So if you go to the AR form and you're printing a group, the page numbers don't reset by invoice. So kind of a feature, a caveat. And the way to fix that is to go into one of the detail rows, select the table. Oh, I don't know that piece of it is required. And then I'll just pick pack number for this example. Pick the pack number group, and then under the group thing here, you've got page breaks. And then I like using between, that works the best for me. And then on this, you can barely see that. Can I open that up? Yeah, here, reset page number, set that to true. And then your page numbers will reset. Well, you do that, and then for the page name, I set that to the expression, which in this case was the pack num. Here, pack num. There. So if you save this, now this pack num I don't think has, you can't do multiples, but the AR form does, where you can do groups, right? And purchase orders are the same way. And especially for the invoice, it's pretty important that page number gets reset, right? You don't want to send somebody an invoice that says this is page 5 of 10. They're going to go, where's the other 5 pages, right? I only have 2. So that's how you fix that problem, that error. So I've gone a little over my time. I apologize. So.
Thank you. Default, when you're working on a report, default to your GUID. I was thinking about if I was going to be working on a report for a long time.
Yeah.
I would set I would default to GUID while I was working on it.
What do you mean? Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, just hard coded basically. Yeah. See, again, I'm too forgetful. I'm gonna forget that I did that. Right?
Because it would get passed to and override to default.
Right.
So even if you forgot it, you should be able to.
You are. I'm working with SSRS
No, I'm still learning. Still learning little tricks and things that work and don't work, and you put fields in, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, and it's formatting strings is totally different, and so
because you do like version control, so you can have whole projects saved in, they give you like 3 versions of same version control, and then what you're working on, so you can track changes on reports.